Our second reading today is from the book of Genesis. We're still in Genesis. But remember last week we were with Abraham and Sarah. And you remember the men came and Abraham laughed when the first time they said to him, Sarah's going to have a child. And he laughed. And then last week Sarah laughed. But she had a child. And they named him Isaac. And you remember, Isaac means laughter, because all of the names in the Old Testament, they aren't just what your mama wanted to call you. They are a reflection of your character. So Isaac, laughter. He then meets and marries Rebecca, captivating. And she's with child. It's a hard pregnancy because she's going to have twins. And it feels like they are fighting in her belly. And when the babies are finally born, the first one is pulled out and he's covered with red hair all over, and they name him Esau, red. And the second one is holding on to his brother's foot like he's trying to get ahead of him. And when they pull him out, they name him Jacob, heel, which also means cheating to get ahead. And sure enough, Esau, he's just like his daddy. He's a good hunter, he's an outdoor man. And Jacob, he's just like his mama. He's smaller of stature, and he likes to stay in the tent and read with them and talk to them and hear about the world. And he also is desperate to outdo his brother. One time, you remember, his brother Esau comes home from working a lot, and he tricks him because Esau is so hungry. He, jokingly says, hey, I'll trade you your birthright for something to eat. Some people say it's red lentils. Get it? Red. And he says yes, because it's the birthright that the oldest son inherits all of the wealth and becomes the head of the household. And then later, when laughter is on his deathbed, son of laughter, Jacob comes with his mother, and he pretends he put on a hairy cloth, right, a skin, so that when poor blind Isaac reaches up, he feels the furriness and assumes it's his son Esau. And he gives Jacob not just the birthright, but also the blessing. The blessing that says, this is what you will be and what you will have in the world. When Esau hears, he's furious. And his mother says to him, run away, run to my uncle, run to Laban, go to Haran, which is in Syria, run that way, I'll send word when he's not angry anymore. 20 years later, Jacob, him and his uncle Laban have been tricking each other and cheating each other for some time. And finally he hears it's time for him to come home. God tells him, not his mama. And he starts back with his wives, his children, all of the animals they've collected, slaves, everyone they own. The whole household is moving. And he knows he has to cross his brother's land to get home. He sends a messenger ahead, and the messenger comes back and says, Esau is on his way this way with 400 men. Jacob assumes his brother is just like him. Unforgiving, cheating, tricking. And he's afraid that his brother's going to kill him. And so he sends ahead of him gifts for his brother and his wives and his children, puts them in the place of danger, thinking his brother won't hurt them. And so there he is, alone, on the banks of the river. It's a small stream with high banked sides. And here he is up on the top looking down. And that's where our reading begins. That night, that same night, Jacob got up. He took his 2 wives, his 2 maids, his 11 children, and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. He took them and sent them across the stream, and likewise everything he had. Jacob was left alone. And a man wrestled with him until daybreak. When the man saw that he didn't prevail against Jacob, he struck him on the hip socket, and Jacob's hip was put out of joint as he wrestled with him. Then the man said, let me go, for the day is breaking. But Jacob said, I will not let you go. I will not let you go unless you bless me. So he said to him, what's your name? And he said, Jacob. Then the man said, "You shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel, for you have striven with God and with humans and have prevailed." Then Jacob asked him, "Please tell me your name." But he said, "Why is it you ask my name?" And then he blessed him. So Jacob called that place Peniel, saying, "For I have seen God face to face, and yet my life is preserved." What goes on to happen in the 33rd chapter that isn't part of our reading is he finally gets face to face with his brother Esau. And his brother runs to him and hugs him and kisses him and says how much he has missed him and tells him he doesn't want any of his things. He has enough. He wants his brother back. And this time, Jacob looks into the face of his brother and says, "Looking at you is like seeing the face of God." So, Jacob is a fighter. Not a physical fighter. I mean, he didn't want to fight Esau. He wanted to cheat him, and then he ran away. But he fights for what he wants. He takes what he wants. He's a trickster. He'd spent all that time in Syria with Laban, tricking each other, getting away. And finally, he's on the shore alone. Who knows how often he is alone as the head of a household. And something jumps on his back. He doesn't know who it is. Is it a man? Is it Esau, his brother? Could it even be Isaac? Is it an angel? Is it God? He doesn't know, but it's physical. And they are rolling around in the dirt, body on body, sweat on sweat, in the mud, grunting, struggling. Frederick Buechner, as one of my favorite theologians and writers, he wrote something called The Son of Laughter. And in it is a first-person account of this story of Jacob. I'm going to tell you just a little of it. Out of the dark, someone leapt at me with such force it knocked me on my back. It was a man. I couldn't see his face. His naked shoulder was pressed so hard against my jaw, I thought it would break it. His flesh was chill and wet as the river. He was not the God of the river. He was Esau. He had slain all my sons. He had forded the river to slay me. Just as my neck was about to snap, I butted my head upward with the last of my strength and caught him square. And for an instant, he loosened his grip, and I was free. Over and over, we rolled together into the reeds at the water's edge. We struggled in each other's arms. He was on top. Then I was on top. I knew they weren't Esau's arms. This wasn't Esau. I don't know who this is. I did not know who this was. I did not know who I was. I knew only terror and that it was dark as death. I knew only that the stranger wanted my life. There were moments when I seemed to be prevailing. It was as if he was letting me prevail. And then he was at me with a new fury. But he did not prevail. For hours and hours it went on that way. Our bodies were slippery with mud. We were panting like beasts. We could not see each other. We spoke no words. I did not know why we were fighting. It was like fighting in a dream. He outweighed me. He out-wrestled me. But he did not overpower me. He did not overpower me until the moment came to overpower me. And when the moment came, I knew that he could have made it come whenever he wanted. I knew that all through the night he'd been waiting for that moment. He had his knee under my hip and the rest of his weight was on top of my hip. And then the moment came and he gave a fierce downward thrust and I felt a fierce pain. And it was less a pain I felt than a pain I saw. I saw a light. I saw the pain as a dazzling white bird shape of light. The pain's beak impaled me with light. It blinded me with the light of its wings. I knew I was crippled and done for. I could do nothing now but cling on, and I clung for dear life. I clung for dear death. My arms trussed him. My legs locked him. For the first time he spoke. "Let me go." The sounds were more breath than sound. They scalded my neck where his mouth was touching. He said, "Let me go, for the day is breaking." Only then did I see that the first faint shudder of light behind this farthest hills. I said, "I will not let you go." I would not let him go for fear that the day would take him as the dark had given him. It was my life I clung to. My enemy was my life. My life was my enemy. I said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. Even if his blessing meant death, I wanted it more than life. Bless me, I said. I will not let you go unless you bless me. He said, who are you? There was mud in my eyes and in my ears and in my nostrils, in my hair. My name tasted of mud when I spoke it. Jacob. My name is Jacob. He said, it is Jacob no longer. You are now Israel. You have struggled with God and with men. You have prevailed. That's the meaning of the name, Israel. I was no longer Jacob. I was no longer myself. Israel was who I was. The stranger had said it. I tried to say it the way he said it, Yisrael. I tried to say the new name. To name what I was to this new self that I was. I couldn't see him. He was too close to me for me to see. I could only see the curve of his shoulders above me. I saw the first glimmer of dawn on the shoulders like a wound. I said, what is your name? I could only whisper it. Why do you ask my name? We were both whispering. He didn't wait for an answer. He blessed me as I had asked. I don't remember the words of the blessing. I don't remember if there even were words. I remember the blessing of his arm holding me and the blessing of his arms around me. I remember as blessing the black shape of him against the rose-colored sky. I remember as blessing the one glimpse I had of his face. It was more terrible than the face of dark or of pain or of terror. It was the face of light. No words can tell of it. Silence cannot tell of it. Sometimes I can't believe that I saw it and lived, but only that I dreamed I saw it. And sometimes I believe I saw it, and now I only dream I live. Jacob had run away his whole life. But in this wrestling, he did not run away. He held on. He held on for dear life. And when he was hurt, when his hip was put out, he would limp the rest of his life. He would never run again. The angel or the man or God says, who are you? What he's saying is not just what is your name, he's saying what is your character? And there in the dark, struggling to hold on to something he cannot see, he says, my name is Cheater. My name is Heel. And the man says in the darkness, both of them exhausted, no, that is not your name. Your name is Israel, for you are one who prevails in the struggle. We know this story, as soon as the angel says that, is bigger than the story of one man and God. It is our story. That is the name Israel of all of us. We are those people, the ones who struggle and do not give up, the ones who prevail. Isn't that who you want to be? Sometimes if you've been alone in the dark, maybe it's night, but maybe it's day, but you're alone. And you can feel the struggle inside you. You can feel the struggle around you. It's almost like you know you're going to be overpowered and you are holding on with everything you have. Maybe the struggle for you is addiction. Maybe the struggle for you is illness or mental illness. Maybe the struggle for you is your family relationships, but you are holding on with everything you have. Saying, let me live. That's the kind of struggle I want. I wish more than anything sometimes that I could hold on physically to God. Roll around in the dirt and prove to myself and prove to God that my name is not cheater, my name is not imposter, my name is not broken, my name is not victim, but my name is the one who holds on to you, God. Because our hope is that God knows us and will give us a new name. That God will always bless us. And a blessing is more than just words. A blessing means inheritance. In Romans 8, Paul says, God has adopted us as heirs. We are the heirs of God with Christ. He says we are co-heirs, siblings of Christ. What we seek in the darkness, that connection, that true physical connection, that wanting to wrestle with Christ, to stop the isolation that we feel, to prevail, to remember that we're not alone, that we are named by Christ. We have already been named. We are the ones that prevail through Jesus Christ. We are the ones who prevail through the struggle. We are the ones who will always hold on to Christ as Christ holds on to us. We are Israel. We are Israel. It's our name. It's our inheritance. It's our birthright. We choose the blessing. Give us a blessing. Today, I've placed blessings on our trees. After the service is over, I encourage you to come forward and take your blessing home. If you don't pick up one of these, name your blessing today, because that's who you are. God knows that. He's always known your name.